tribute bands for whatever reason. It's a little different from the cover bands that we've done because, like, he was saying that, there's more of a dedication. Well, I don't want to say there's more of a dedication, but there's a lot more going on with, say, the reproduction of the actual music. Like when we do our Us Employed tribute band, there's 9 people in the band. It's not just a 4-piece band. So we've got background singers, we've got saxophone. So when we try to bring the show to everyone, we try to bring more of the album experience as a live band. So that's why I got involved with it.
There's always been a question of, has the music scene declined? Was it better in the past, or was it always the same? Randy, what do you think? I mean, Randy, you've been, since the 70s, 80s, you've been playing on the island.
Yeah, when I started off, Felix and I were in an all-original band down in New Orleans. This is before Zebra, and we tried it, and we got a couple of gigs, as a headliner with cover bands opening up for us. So we were really kind of like getting them to bring people in to see us, except instead of opening up for them, we were headlining. That failed miserably. We did that for about a year. And then, the whole thing is getting people in front of you to see you. Your friends are going to come out and see you the first time you do a gig, of course, your family. But they're not going to be your fans, your real fans, or at least not many of them are, except maybe your mom and your dad, When we came to New York, we had decided that we were going to, we were doing original material, Zebra was, and but we were also doing a lot of covers. And so we were kind of the opening band for ourselves. We were drawing people in, and the way we worked it was we wouldn't announce that we were doing an original song. We would just play it, in the middle of a set. Maybe we'd do 4 or 5 original songs during a set and see what the response was. And that was kind of an honest way to do it. I think a lot now with the tribute bands, what I see with the tribute bands is there's a lot of musicians that are older, that were in bands in the past, in the 80s, that are putting together the tribute bands, and the tribute thing works so well because there's a focus on what you're going to see. You don't have to wonder whether, are they going to play Van Halen tonight, or are they going to play Pink Floyd, or are they going to play this or that? Because when we were all just cover bands and doing a lot of different stuff, you never knew what you're going to see. Now, there's, you know what you're going to see, It's like, you're going to see Billy Joel, or you're going to go see Billy Joel, tribute band, what you're going to see. You're going to hear the hits. And I think there's a lot of room, but I think there's a lot of misconception with some of the original bands and disheartenment from them. I hear kids saying, I don't want to do covers. Well, if you don't want to do covers, then it's going to be harder, because you're either going to have a great, great manager that puts you in front of, somebody that's selling 20,000 tickets a night, or, you're going to just have to have a record that just sails off. And, you're playing tough odds at that point.
Yeah. I think if you're going to take that road of just having an original band, and you have to have best practices, you have to have a plan, you have to, work on that alone and know what you're up against and know how hard it's going to be. And it's a different road than having a cover band and slipping in your originals, which is also a very smart way to do it. It worked for you.
Yeah, and I think the difference in the scene between now and back then when we first came up is that there's bands now, tribute bands, that's what they want to do. They're not thinking about getting a record deal. They've already done that. They've seen that. They're doing it because they love the music and they want to play. But for younger people, they still want they still want to get that record deal. They want to write songs and stuff. But you can do it without just being totally original. There's no glory in being totally original. Just ask the Beatles. That's how they made it. They were the biggest cover band of all time.
Right. That's right.
So I would suggest, learn some covers, learn some stuff that people are familiar with, and it'll draw them to you to listen to you a little bit more.
Yeah. Mike? Decline? Same? What do you think?
Yeah. Thanks, Randy. I don't know, I'm on a bunch of different ends of the spectrum as far as writing. I've been writing since I first picked up an instrument, and I think the main thing is, I think if we end up as musicians, reaching a point where we become so arrogant that we think that we can tell people what to do on a weekend, what they can do to go out. I gotta be honest, if I'm not a musician and I'm working 9 to 5, I'm just being real, you know. And I have one day off that I can go hang out with my wife or go hang out, you know, whatever, and I want to, you know, spend the only money I have to go out for that week. I'm going to be realistic with you. I'm probably not going to go see a brand new original band with something I've never heard before, something I've never whatever. So I have to be able, as an original artist, to be able to accept that and realize that when I do a big shot show, I can sell out the Paramount. But if I want to play a couple of original songs and I want to do that, I'm going to have 50 people at the gate. That's the way it goes. That's the industry. That's what it is. Nobody's making money selling records anymore, let's face it. No, you know, records, CDs, whatever you want to call them, downloads. I mean, you know how the industry's gone, but it's a mess. So I think as musicians, to blame each other would be completely counterproductive. We're all, if you don't think that I would like to make a living just playing my own music, you're absolutely out of your mind. It would be my first choice always to do that. But if you also have to tell me that it's immoral to do that because other people are not liking that I'm doing a cover thing, well, guess what? I have to feed my family. I'm never going to allow somebody to tell me that I can't play a certain style of music or do whatever. These are my kids. These are my... I would rather be playing music 3 nights a week than having a 50-hour-a-week job doing something else, making the same amount of money. I've been that way since I'm young. I've encouraged my kids that same way. I don't tell them not to go to school. I don't tell them not to do good in school. But it's not the only way. We're musicians here. Most of the people are here, that's what we did. I went in my room, I bought a Beatle record, my parents bought me a Bee Gees record, my brother bought me a Rush record, and before you know it, I'm in my room with my instrument and I'm playing. It's about the love of the game. If we don't, it's gotta come back to that. You know, if you don't love what you're doing, it's a big waste of time. It's a big waste. If you did this just to go make it, if you're doing this just to make it, you're in the wrong industry. You might as well try to be a baseball player then. You might have great talent. I had great talent as a baseball player, but there was a million better players than me. It's just the way it is. So in this industry, it's about realism, I think, about being realistic about your own abilities, what you can offer, what you can't offer. And if you need to, you know, you need to play other people, as an original act, if you need to play other people's music, then obviously I'm saying you need to play other people's music. Like, there's no, you know, we all right, I'll give you a list of, well, I could give you a list. I'll give you 10 people, hypothetically even, I don't know this to be true, so please, Glenn, don't quote me on this. But I can name you a bunch of artists right now, recording artists, that are out there right now, and they are original recording artists. But they're not original recording artists. And when I told you their names, you'd be like, are you kidding me? They're cover artists. They all have songs being written for them by teams of people. They're covering other people's stuff. Everybody is covering everything. Pick your greatest artist. He might not be writing the stuff that you like himself. He might not even be writing it himself. So are we not covering either way? Are they not covering too? I mean, if somebody else writes a song, we're covering that song. You're not an original artist then. But there's a million people floating around saying we're an original. You know, I'm an original artist. And I don't know who writes out there. I can't judge but I know what's going on with Nashville, and there's teams now. You know, and a lot of the times the actual artist is not even involved in the writing process. And they're cover artists. But they're selling out arenas, and they're selling out stadiums, singing other people's songs. What's different than what we're doing? I just don't see the difference.
That's a great point. I never looked at it like that. Hey, Glenn, now you've been here 20 years? And from Cleveland, so be careful here. Rock and roll. So, your opinion of now yours will be based on 20 years, right?
Right.
It's changed at all. So.
Well, in the 20 years I've been here, I've seen a big boom in original music on Long Island, and I've seen it recede. We're in the middle of a downturn at the moment because there was just a huge growth of local original music in the early 2000s. When Taking Back Sunday and Brand New and all those bands all were playing out and getting signed in the middle of Farmingdale. I mean, we don't have that now, and we're not going to have that, I don't think, anytime. Not just us, but I don't think that's going to exist anywhere because records don't sell anymore. Record labels aren't going to go somewhere en masse and sign everyone in sight anymore because they're not going to make that money on their label. They'll only make money if they sign a 360 deal with the band, because the band only makes money mainly today with touring. So that kind of changes the dynamic of how everything works.
You should tell everybody what a 360 deal is.
Well, the 360, it used to be you signed a record deal with a record company to sell records. Now, because that doesn't make as much money, you sign a 360 deal, which means they own everything, a piece of everything you do. So your touring, your merchandise, your records, and that didn't used to happen before.
Is there anything that media can do? I know media was a big part of it in the earlier days when, like, my father's place, their synergy with the LIR and that kind of thing. And you know, and as you said, the record labels would always, if the place was empty, they would fill the place. They would buy tickets and put people in. There was a different world when record labels rate the artist. Now it's a lot different. Do you think that there are things that media can do to help and change things? And I mean, are you allowed to? Do you have that freedom to write whatever you want? And you have this great band, you make the next Taking Back Sunday?
If I hear the next Taking Back Sunday, I'm going to write about it. Media is more fragmented today than it was back then, and it's more it's like the music industry. There isn't really a newspaper or a radio station or anything really that has the kind of power that Newsday or WLIR back in the day that they used to have, where they would write about one band and people would go see that one band because they heard about it. That doesn't really exist anymore. There's too many outlets. But that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm not going to try and write about Ian's great new single, because I am. But it's in balance with everything else. And there used to be a team of music writers on Long Island, and now it's just me.
Do you think the bands are the bands reaching out to you?
Some are,
okay.
Some aren't. I mean, part of the thing with being in a newspaper is younger people don't really read newspapers in the same way. So it doesn't mean as much for me to write about bands that are made of teenagers, because they don't care.
Right. So a quick story. I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and they talked about how years ago, and this leads into what you said, bands had to have a label before an agent would be interested or a manager would be interested in them. Now that's not the case. You don't have to have a label deal for an agent or a manager to be interested in you. So the question was, what does the manager look for in a baby band? And great music, obviously, ambition. They do everything they're supposed to do. They use all the best practices. Thousands of hours on stage. Experience is the big one. And just, that's all they're thinking about, nothing else. What do you feel best practices are for your band as an original band, Ian, to be successful? I mean, what's the path you're taking in 2018 that is so different?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is work ethic, and finding and utilizing the tools that you have accessible to you. The most powerful tool, I think, currently is the internet, and like distribution services, being able to kind of get your music, original music, out into kind of beyond where you're just rooted. And then I would say, you know, kind of from the live show perspective, for an original artist, it's about support opportunities, and as they mentioned down there, is just getting in front of as many people as possible. But I would say currently getting in front of as many people as possible as original artists, the most people you're going to reach is through the internet. That's way more than kind of playing live or getting in a van now and kind of roughing it around the country, as bands did earlier, before the internet was such a huge part of the music industry. So, Yeah, I would say kind of utilizing kind of the opportunities that you can seek out and attain yourself, and kind of not giving up on those things. And you know, for me, you know, I'm finding a way to put out music consistently as much as I can, and promoting it as much as I can to as many people as possible. And that's kind of the approach there.
Mike, that can pull. Sound guys?
I get the last word on this mic.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we got. Oh, there we go. Hey, hi, everybody. No, you're absolutely right, and it does boil down back to work ethic. As harsh as this sounds, there's a difference between the musician that gets off of work and is just. Absolutely, I'm 22.
Okay, I just want to see if
Well, that's fine.
We're going to be able to ask questions.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to know how old.
Thank you. That's fine. I'm 22. I grow a beard sometimes, so I look older. But yeah, so back down to work ethic, and as harsh as it sounds, there is a difference in musicians where when I get off of work, I get off of work late, and my go-to thing isn't sleep. I practice with my band 3 to 4 times a week, and when the social media got brought up before, I absolutely think social media is such an important part of raising a band. For example, like you're in Big Shot. If you go onto Billy Joel's page, like his Twitter, we're gonna talk about Twitter. If you went onto his Twitter and you looked at everybody who followed him, if you followed them on the Big Shot account, you know they would take interest to Big Shot, most likely. It's not 100%, but it's most likely because they like Billy Joel. So if you have all these sounds, and you sound like bands A, B, and C, you can see who follows bands A, B, and C, and why. And it's a really good opportunity for original artists to gain new followers. That's how we started, and you've got to love what you're doing. When we first started, I loved it when I was playing to nobody, and I love it now when we sold out Amityville Music Hall and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the most important parts in being a local musician or an original artist.
So, another question. Do you find that the majority of original bands, James, on Long Island are doing what they should do to get a gig, and to what they bring to the table, do what they should do to bring enough people to the table and make their performance worthwhile? James.
Well, actually, I think there definitely needs to be some collaboration between the venues and the original musicians. You know, I always see, you know, when I was booking music over at the Brickhouse Brewery for a decade, we did all original music at one time. 6 or 7 years ago, I got pretty fed up with the, you know, the classic rock and roll scene, and I kind of wanted to change the energy in the building. And I know that I can do that, you know, by just my staff and what type of music that I present there. So one of the fun things, though, that I did notice too is that, you know, yeah, a lot of times when you're dealing with tribute bands and cover bands, you know, they expect this to be all of, you know, you have to promote them, you have to do this stuff, and you know that we need to both do that. We need to promote ourselves as a business, we need to promote ourselves as a musician, and we need to promote ourselves as a venue and what we have to offer. When I did get fed up with all the older acts, I decided to just introduce you know, original music and things more that I appreciate. And I introduced EDM and some hip hop and some rap and all sorts of other things. To be quite honest, I wanted to get fired, so I just did whatever the hell I wanted to do. It was actually, it ended up being incredibly successful, and I ended up there for another 6 or 7 years. But you know, there's a lot of great original music, and I think that the young people are working hard at trying to get their music promoted. But they have to see what's out there, and I don't think they're too familiar with the scene and what goes on. So they're trying to forge a new road, and they don't have to. And if you're going to have people come to listen to your original band, and like Michael was saying before, it's like, you know, I have my one night out a week. I want to hear something that I can sing and dance to, something that's familiar, something that's wonderful. There's room for everyone that's here. And the tribute bands are awesome because you know exactly what you're going to get. And I think that's a fantastic experience. And if you're going to spend your money that night, that way, then, you know, This is my one night out. I want to dance and sing to the music that I appreciate. But I also think the listeners have a responsibility too. And the fact that so many people are stuck in the music from the time that they graduated high school and they're stuck in that era year after year, I mean, to me, that would be the most miserable thing I can possibly think of. I evolve all the time when I listen to music. And the last time when we would put out some music for the loading dock sessions at the Patchwork Theater for the Performing Arts, I got 300 responses overnight. And I sat there and weeded through almost every original band over the next week. And trust me, I listened to a lot of crappy music, but then I listened to a lot of music that really pleased me, excited me, and tested what I had to hear. And so I think being challenged as a listener is something that's totally worthwhile. And when you do that, when you take that time every once in a while, you support local music, you support creativity. And not that being a tribute band, that's all part of the creative process. They're also incredible musicians that have a lot to offer. But we have a responsibility to sit there and encourage young people to listen to some new sounds. What else are we going to offer to the future? Are we going to listen to the same 70s and 80s bands over and over? And the reason I got tired of the rock and roll and the classic scene is because I didn't think of it as classic anymore. I thought of it as oldies music. It's 50 years old. I wanted to move on from that. I wanted to move on to the stage. And wherever we can support original music, I think it's up to the original musicians, the venues, and to the listeners. It's also up to the people that on the radio stations and who produce this type of, who give us the wider audience. And I also understand the economics behind it. But at the end of the day, there's bands like Led Zeppelin that had an incredible amount of play on the radio, and they became popular that way. And I don't think that with the scattered amount of internet and everything else where you can gain music from, it takes a lot of dedication to listen to some new music. So it's not an easy battle. But wherever there are venues to encourage original music, I think you guys should step up to it, and I think the venue owners should actually reach out to them.
Hey, Dan, do you feel that the majority of the bands that come to you do what they should be doing to bring enough to the table to make it worth it for you to put the original band on for that night? Because that'll be question is, tribute bands bringing people, original bands don't. So.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Don Barzini for calling this meeting tonight.
No, this is great, Jim. Can you repeat your question?
Do you feel that when original bands come and you give them the venue for the night, do you feel that they do what they're supposed to do and to work with you? I got a call from a band that told me, well, I bring the music, you bring the people. Bye. It's a partnership. He gave us this room tonight. He's paying for the air conditioning. He's paying for everything, the bartenders, and and that's what you have to do if they don't bring anybody in. So.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we try to encourage everybody, every band that we book to promote. We help them. We have a social media team. We send them the links. Here's the link to promote with. Send us artwork. We make posters. We put posters up. We send the street team out to put posters up. Some bands make their own. Obviously, they work in the social media. There's a difference too. The older bands seem to work Facebook primarily, whereas younger ones do Instagram and I think there's one or two others. I can't keep up with them, but that's what I pay the other guys for. But just to deviate slightly, the first year we were open, we were advertising on radio, WEHM, the radio station from the East End, and they brought us a show of a national act that was signed to Atlantic Records called the Sheepdogs. They were the first band, the first indie band ever to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. They're actually from Canada. They sound a lot like Wilco. And they're still out there touring. They're popular in Canada, they tour in Europe. They came to the venue to do essentially a free show that the radio station paid for. And they had their A&R guy from Atlantic Records who had signed them with them. And he was in the green room telling me, he says, the music business hasn't changed in one respect in decades. He goes, it's 10% talent and 90% promotion. And he doesn't mean that the band's not talented. He means the success of the band is going to be how well we promote them. Mm-hmm. Get them in front of people, get their music heard, get their songs placed in TV shows and radio commercials and movies. All that stuff is all part of the success of the band. And the whole promotion idea starts at grassroots level, starts locally. You got a gig, promote it, you know? And not just your, like you said, your family and friends, your mother's gonna come, but you gotta get other people to come. Everybody in the band. It can't be the leader of the band. There's 5 guys in the band, all work, everybody work.
The question, there's a question of Katie and all the original artists and what is success. You know, for some it's to play for a living, and for others it's to have that hit. You know, so Katie, you know, what do you consider success in your life as an original musician?
Well, I do both. So for me, success is the fact that I'm not working the 9-to-5 job anymore. But it also means I diversify. So I play drums for dance classes during the day, but for a university, so I know at least I have that solid, because now I have 2 kids. And if I leave, you know, my kids to go do something, for me, success is making some money so that I can justify my time being spent in it. And also the quality of the music. When this industry became, I feel, more pressure on the musician, the songwriter, to be the promoter as well. Whereas I feel like it used to almost be a natural thing. As the industry kind of changed and it's compartmentalized for a lot of reasons. So when I had children, I kind of felt like I just want to play music. So for me, I just need to make music. I feel the best when I write a song that's, you know, feels the best. And I also feel amazing just performing. So that's why I do the Joni Project. And the Joni Project feeds me in many ways. You know, the shows might be a little more attended, so they're going to make more. And I use that to fund my recording of my songs. So I kind of feed my career in that way. And it also feeds me by doing something like the Joni Project. It is a project. So I'm growing as a musician, and I'm getting to play with so many musicians that maybe I wouldn't have played with if I was just doing one thing. So to me, success is just being able to make music and play music and continue to do that over a long period of time. And it is having those shows where you come home and you didn't spend money, you know, going out there playing, because I've done that too, where I've gone out, branched out, and, you know, it's cost me money. So I've done both. And, you know, sometimes it feels good to be playing your own music, and then it also feels good to just have a great night where you have a sold-out show.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, me and Randy actually go way back when it comes to original music, and I was 19 years old when I got my first spec deal with Atlantic Records, and it was because of Randy. And Randy was signed to Atlantic at the time, and he called up Jason Flom from Atlantic Records at the time while I was at his house, and popped the phone up and said, "Hey, I got Billy Joel at my house, listen." And I think I did Piano Man or something, right, Randy, or something like that? And I think it was maybe a matter of a couple of weeks where we were trekking my keyboard up to the office of Sony. So if you want, I think the biggest fear of original bands nowadays is that they're afraid they're going to get labeled if they play covers. And I'm telling you that you will. There's no doubt about it. If that's all you do, you will, because it has affected a lot of the different deals that I almost got with my original music. Oh, I was in a cover band. This was back in the day when labels were signing people and giving people big deals. Now, the industry's changed. I have Big Shot, I have the Billy thing now, thank God, and I have a better following. And now a label would love somebody like that to just go, well, he already has his own following, we don't got to put any money into it, all we got to do, you know, he's well packaged already. So now the cover thing is now a help to the original thing. So it seems to be going in like this vicious cycle. And in my life, I mean, record company showcase after record company showcase, I've never stopped writing music. I had a song on the theme song for Kevin Can Wait, another video coming out for a new original. I've never stopped writing music. That's what I really want to achieve. But there's no way that I'm going to stop playing with Billy out of pride and go, well, I'm not making money doing my own stuff, so I'm not going to, you know, that's never going to happen. But I'm never going to stop doing both. So if God decides, or karma decides, or fate decides to land something in your lap and give you something, I have tried my whole life to do things. Nothing has ever worked out for me when I've tried. It's when I'm least trying, and when I'm just given up and I've surrendered to the universe and said, you know what, I've done everything I could. It is what it is. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm content. I live in a trailer with my kids 15 years ago in a camper in Shirley, and here I am. You know, and I was happy in the camper. I was fine there. So I'm going to get back there eventually. Can't stay up here forever, right? So be happy where you're at. Be happy at the bottom, because you're going to end up back there anyway. We're all going to end up back there. That's the way it goes. And I'm just happy that there is a time. I mean, we did Kid Gloves back in 1990 on Long Island. In the 90s, you're talking about 1,300 people on a Wednesday night at Mulcahy's or at a different place like that. And bands were getting paid $500 to $700. You want to talk about what went wrong with the industry on Long Island? I mean, underpaid people, but agencies that were owning, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but agencies that were owning rooms. And then having like 55 different cover bands at $500 a night, instead of having like 11 solid ones at like $3,000 a night, which would set the bar that high for other bands to come in and make that kind of money. When you're coming in and you're starting off and you're walking in the room and you're saying, well, let's just play for the door, you know, like where's this, you want to have some kind of guarantee, and you have to work with the venue, because it's both. I see both sides of what you guys are talking about too, you know, you need to have a band that's going to come in and draw. And if you want to have a venue that wants to have original music in it, well then you might need cover acts to come in on the other nights to keep the room open. Because if the room's not open, you're not playing anywhere. We're not playing, even myself, with my own original music. I mean, I literally can't even play my own stuff at a Big Shot show, and you know, you get crickets and tumbleweed blowing through the thing after the song. You know, they're not, you know, I don't think they're bad songs, you know, but it doesn't matter what I think. You know what I mean? I'm in a room with people that want to hear what they want to hear for the night, and that's the way it goes. And we can keep trying to push what we can keep trying to push, but at the end of the day, do you go back home at night, or do we all go back home at night, and do we love what we do? And that's it. If we make money at it, great. If we don't, we end up back in the camper. And guess what? Life was simple. It's simple then. So let's just get back to the roots, I think. That's the main thing, loving music, no matter what it is. You gotta earn a living. You know, I'd rather earn a living doing music. That's all I'm saying. No matter what it takes. I'd rather be playing an instrument and getting green at the end of the night than busting my ass like I did doing landscaping and working at Burger King and delivering Pudgy's chicken. And I go down a list of the shitty jobs I had. You know what I mean? I'm being honest with you. I mean, there's no better job than being able to go home after 3 hours when I did my first piano bar gig, and I made $150 plus tips. And I had a brand new Mustang GT in high school, and I was paying for it. And that was all from doing a piano bar gig, just a piano bar, $150 a night. Or I could have worked for my brother and worked 9 hours a day landscaping, carrying pails, and making $80 for the day. You tell me what I was supposed to choose. Playing Billy Joel music, Elton music, cover music, or doing that job. So we do what we need to do to fund our original project. You want to have money to fund yourself? Companies aren't going to fund you guys anymore. You got to fund yourself. How are you going to fund yourself? You got to do, sometimes you got to just make a living doing something else and use that money and allocate whatever you can do in your cover life into your original life, so that you are independent, you are not reliant on anybody anymore. Then the label wants you. Then the label wants to come after you and go, oh my God, look at the following they got. Look at that. Oh, he just did this with this guy, just did that. That's when I think it all starts to happen. I just think that It's when we give up control of trying so hard. And we just surrender to who we are and what we have, and this is what we are in life, and this is it. And let God do the rest, because that's what's happened to me. I've never gotten anything in this life by trying. So.
Ian, what's success to you?
Success.
Yep.
Success to me is just, I mean, just doing it. I mean, just being able to do it consistently and comfortably, as best as possible. I mean, what fulfills me is being able to write and have my music connect with people, whether that's live or on record. Currently, I'm comfortable enough to, make my own records and put them out, and I reach as many people as they can currently. But I would just say success, it's not really, I wouldn't be able to measure it because I don't really set a ceiling, like I think it's just kind of being able to be healthy enough to be inspired, consistently. And, I would say that's pretty much it.
And you've written for a few people.
Yeah, and, as far as being able to, monetarily support my original stuff, I also do songwriting for other artists, and do the writing camp thing, which I've been fortunate enough to kind of develop a network in, and that fulfills other things creatively outside of being the artist and kind of being more of the being a single part in a larger picture. I think sometimes is important to kind of fuel inspiration for the thing you have total control over. It opens up your perspective, and it's allowed me to kind of just expand my musical vocabulary.
Mike?
Oh boy.
Hello. I think success is, it's really hard to, like you said, measure, because you look at anybody, even people that are doing fantastic, if they want to do better, to them they might not be successful. You can be on top of the world, but if you don't feel successful, then you're not successful. For me, to be able to be comfortable, happy, and continue doing what I love doing, which would be making music, and having everybody see people react the way they do react to it, then I'm the richest man.
Randy, what's success to you?
I think that being successful is putting yourself in a position where you get to pick and choose the gigs you want to take. Whatever you do, whether you're a doctor, lawyer, musician, or whatever. And, to me, that's successful. It's not having to do something else, unless, of course, you enjoy it, But, if somebody said to me, well, look, you're never going to be able to play, your songs again, and, you'll never play another Beatles song, but you can come play guitar for this rap band, I might go to Burger King, So, nothing against rap, but that's me, that wouldn't be enjoying, even though it's in the music business. So I think, my advice to anybody who's going to get into music is be as versatile as you can, learn how to play as many different instruments as you can, learn how to be an engineer, write songs, be able to be on call for anything that might come up. And as you go through your career, you'll find out the things that you like and that you're really not too fond of, And I get a lot of calls to do things that, I just don't want to do it, and I'm just glad I don't have to do those things. So to me, that's successful at any level, whether you're big or small, it just depends on, what your monetary situation is and how happy you want to be, And,
Thank you. There was a lot of question on some of the blogs that we got about fees and original bands, whether they should get paid if they have no following. I'm not going to bring anybody in to a venue, or Ian, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, it's a tough question, especially coming from the side I also, from being a songwriter, I also have my day job is also a promoter, so I have that side of the spectrum as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think some incentive, I think, is or it's transparency, I think, is important between kind of a promoter and an act. If the original artist is brand new, you know, or literally has no following at all, I think incentive is, you know, a small, maybe just like gas money or something that, if feasible and if realistic, is well appreciated. But I think as an artist, on the original side and starting out, I think you have to have a perspective of not necessarily to expect, and not put yourself on a pedestal in that sense. And I don't think that should be a defining factor for taking your gig in the beginning. I mean, if you're doing it for the money anyways, as an original artist, I feel like you're silly in that sense. Just expecting money from the start is you have to kind of pay your dues. So I wouldn't say from the artist side, you shouldn't expect anything, and I think if it's an opportunity that you feel is worth your time, and value, you should capitalize on it and get the most out of it. And money, I don't think, is the priority there. But from the promoter side, I think you know, if there's a way to fit or, you know, offer as much as you can, even if it's not money, if it's a meal or you know, beers in the green room, you know, something that is extending your giving back, I guess, to the artist. That is, I think, also something that you can offer and be accommodating.
Michael?
I think, thinking back to when I first started, I think if you're a band, because like I said before, when you start from nothing, like a seed. So being in a band with no followers and then going to a venue and being like, hey, we want to headline this show, but we're not going to bring anybody. If you think you're going to get paid doing that, you're not. There's no way. And I think you can't go into something expecting to not be able to bring something to the table, wanting to take something away. And I think that's a huge part of it. There are other ways to make money, but if you can't, it's like the whole pay-to-play thing on the island. A lot of shows have that whole pay-to-play rule. I'm going to give you 20 tickets. If you want to play this show, you got to sell all 20 tickets. If you don't sell all 20 tickets, you cannot play. It's one of those things where, as much as it does suck, you've got to be able to build yourself upon selling all those tickets. If you want to play that venue, you have to be able to meet requirements.
Katie, what do you think?
As far as should venues pay or
Fees, you know, I mean, it's a big question. It came up a lot, you know, when I asked the questions online. A lot of bands think that they should get paid no matter what, you know, whether they have a following, don't have a following. Some bands, you know, bring in 500 people and they never ask you, you know, what am I getting paid? They're there to build up their following and play. And I think Randy and Michael and a few others would get this part of it, but there's a couple of generations up here of original music, you know, and in the 70s and 80s, when you wanted to get a record deal, you tore up some little bar somewhere and you built a following and you got the bugs out of your show and you looked at your songs and you looked at the crowd and you said, that song's not working, this song's working, you know, and you tore the place up. Every time you went out on that stage, you went up there to kill everybody in the audience and take a fan one at a time. And then you would go into Manhattan and play in front of the industry. It really hasn't changed that much, except for the fact that technology's changed and what you were talking about before, you know, you can get a lot of traction online. But the band, I mean, and I always bring this up, did you see Billy Joel when he was 16 years old, and Bruce when he was 16 years old, and what they would do in the bars, and what they would, Twisted Sister? When you walked out of a Twisted Sister show, whether you liked them or not, you told your friends about them, because they pulled the ducts out of the ceiling, and they were fighting with the audience and wearing women's clothes. But the thing was, they were entertaining, and they were an experience. And I think that that's something we haven't talked about. How good are you? How much are you working on your show? I mean, I still see Billy, at his age, and he tears the place up. He's still great, How good are you? So when you write a bunch of songs and you walk into 89 North and you say, look, I had at your thing, James, that you put together, I had a kid tell me, 89 North has 3 tribute bands tonight. That sucks. And I said, yeah, tomorrow night there are 4 original bands. But you suck. And, it made no sense to me, whatsoever, but he really believed this, And, what do you bring into the table? And, when I went to this conference, they asked this agent, and they said, what do you do? What do you look for in a band? And she said, you gotta be great, they gotta be ambitious, they gotta be experienced on, great songs, so that I can get them from 0 to 500 people. That was the concept, 0 to 500 people. And it's a plan, it's a whole plan. And that's what I don't hear, we haven't talked about yet. How great. Why should somebody listen to your original music? Did you come the first time and maybe the space gave you the lounge and you brought in 40 people, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your blah, 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 blah. And you brought in 30 people, 40 people, and then the next time you came back, nobody came back. Why didn't anybody come back? Were your songs just not that good? Was your show a little boring? Was it just not worth coming back for? And, so to me, that's, what I look for. I book, like I said, almost 200 bands a year, and when I get over 500 submissions for a festival that I do, and, what do you bring to the table? How great are you? And that's what every big agent and manager and, they're not just suits, they're people who really want to give you great music, and they want you to work a little harder, and these people up here, these are all pros. Everybody up here is good at what they do. And, Randy, I played alongside Randy years ago, and Zebra tore it up, and so what do you bring to the table? Joni, the Joni project, that's a hard project to do, Joni Mitchell. And she's doing the hard years, the Jocko years. Not easy on the bass player. And she's amazing, so, Michael, we can talk about everybody up here is great. Ian's got great tunes. Glenn's been writing about Ian forever. So, that's, how great, are you the next Take Me Back Sunday? Are you going in there with a vengeance, to tear the place up and make, 5 more followers. And I just don't see that anymore, I'm sorry. Katie.
The thing that I really want to say is what I experienced on Long Island is, and especially, I wish he was here tonight, but at the Patchogue Theater, what Christopher Capobianco did, because he focused on original music with these shows in the lobby, and when I first came to Long Island, I was only on the island, I think, a couple of years, and I was searching for people that were in my genre, and I'll never forget the first show I booked with Christopher. He booked me, Jesse Haynes, and Kathy Kreger, and I think he called it like Power of Women or something. It was, he had a whole thing to it, and there was a decent crowd there, but he created something there with a fan base. He used, Patchogue Theater's fan base, and these people would come back time and time again to these lobby shows, and I really built a fan base in Patchogue really because of those shows, because the people did come back, and it was smaller, it wasn't as big as when, I played there many times at the Patchogue Theater, and the Joni Project show, I think, was our most successful show, but there was really something that was created there by these original nights, and teaming up original artists with other original artists that are somewhat similar. So I think as a songwriter, as, you know, if you're a band or whatever, just teaming up with other bands, other musicians, for me, that's the great thing about Long Island, is this huge network of awesome musicians, and you can put together these nights and join forces, and you'll end up with more people at your shows. So I think that if we could do that more, I was sorry to see that original lobby series, you know, go, but I'd love that if we could do that at multiple venues, do these original nights, because they might bring in less people than the tribute nights, but I think that's really a great way to do to build fan base. So it really helped me. And
what Katie's saying too is Chris did a terrific job with the Live in the Lobby series, 7 years in a row. I think he did that, but that also gets back to promotion. Chris was promoting music that he was very fond of. He likes the singer-songwriter genre. He likes things towards the acoustic side. There's promoters who are better at other genres. When we first opened '89, we had the East Coast Collective promoter come in, rented the venue, put on hardcore shows. I knew nothing about hardcore, absolutely nothing. And when they first started playing, I thought there was something wrong with them. You know? I said, the singer's sick, you know, call an ambulance, you know? And he was selling these shows out, and they loved it. East Coast knew how to reach those people, okay? And they sold the shows out, packed it, everybody had a great time. He had national acts at the top of the bill, and he had local openers. But as Katie said, you have different promoters better at certain genres. And a music scene is a big word, it's a big phrase. What is it? Is it metal? Or is it a whole bunch of different things?
We have about 5 more minutes left for this panel. Any questions? Anybody wants to ask the panel? Eppie's on the next panel. Let's hear it, Eppie.
Wait for the next panel.
You're on the next panel.
Can I say something? I just want to say I'm probably the oldest person in this room. I'm 70. I want to give everyone a little history. There's a lot of talent on Long Island, Westbury.
Can we mic at Bing?
There were only cover bands.
Jeff, could we get a mic, please?
I don't need a mic. Can't hear me?
You want me to boost you up there, Epi?
Sorry about that. Hi. In the 60s, when I was 17, 18, going to bars, the only club bands that played were cover bands. But what they did was they would inject their own original songs. The Rascals, the Vanilla Fudge, the Rich Kids, the Illusion. It went on and on. And then one at a time, they'd put a single out. People would buy it. Hey, no one's buying records anymore. But the point I'm making is, it's important. The song is what it's all about. A great song. That's what it's about. No one's saying anything about that. Give me a great song, and I will, as a fan of the band, even if I don't know the band, if I hear a great song, I'll fall in love with the band and the songwriter. So, if no disrespect, because I've seen you play, but I've never talked to you. If they don't like your songs, give them other songs until you have a whole agenda, you have a repertoire of songs that they like that are original songs. And make them sound like did what Randy did in the old days. Randy
Trust me, I do.
Michael has awesome songs. He has original, terrific stuff, and that's why I introduced
does the audience like your songs? What?
They do. I opened up for Billy Joel at the Nassau Coliseum doing my own songs. I've had great opportunities. This again is about the desire of the people and what they want. I am giving it to them at the shows. So it's just you can't just make that kind of statement and say it's because the songs aren't good enough or you don't play enough of them. I'm getting hired to do a job when I'm doing a big shot show. I'm getting hired by the venue, and I'm getting hired. Most of complaints from people if I vary too far from what I'm supposed to be getting paid to be doing there. So I'll do it anyway. I give them my stuff anyway, and I feed it to them, and I tell them, look, you got to do what you got to do. But what they end up choosing to want to buy and what they choose not to want to listen to or not to want to come to is their choice. Still their choice. I'm giving it to them now.
I appreciate that. Maybe I'm too old. I don't understand that.
I really think that a lot of it has to do with our age group, you know? A lot of the people going to see tribute bands these days, they don't want to know about any of the new music, you know? When we were growing up, when Zebra was coming out, we were playing to young kids, and they were looking for new music, you know? And Michael got stuck in the middle somewhere, you know? He's playing classic rock, he's doing Billy Joel as a young kid, like in his teenage years, and then trying to play to that audience and do original stuff. But Michael has great songs. I mean, and if you guys haven't heard him yet, you should check him out, because that's why how old were you, 15 or 16? Sent him right to Atlantic Records the first time I heard it, not because he sounded like Billy Joel, but he had great songs. And I know a great song when I hear it, you know? The guy was really good then, and he's still writing, and he's doing it now. And I understand what Epi's saying, you know, because that's the way it was back then, but things are different now. We've got the baby boomers, which is a large audience that is like still wanting to relive their teenage years, and they're coming back to listen to the Journey tributes and all these tribute bands, and a lot of them aren't interested in hearing new music, you know? That's why record companies are always saying, well, how old are they? How old are they? Why? Because they want to develop these bands from a young age. They don't care if you're 50 and you're a great band, well, that's great. You're not going to get a record deal. If you're 15 and you're an okay band, you got a much better chance. So, you know, it's a tough business.
Yeah.
And that makes
it
it
before. You know, when he wants to go out, am I coming out? Yeah. You know, again, Long Island is a bedroom community. It's not Brooklyn, and it's not Queens, and it's not Manhattan. It's a bedroom community. Most of the people have homes, and you know, and they work all week, and they want to go out on weekends, have a couple of drinks, hang out with their friends, hear music that they recognize, and go back to work on Monday. If you live in Brooklyn, you know, you can walk to the corner and hear a band, and you know, the band's playing for free in a bar on the corner, and you're home by 10:30 and you go to work the next day. It's a different world. So you use Brooklyn, and you use Queens, and you use Manhattan for what it is, the industry, and you work out on Long Island, and any way you can. If it's an original band like Ian's, or you know, you work out on Long Island and get the bugs out of your show and get it ready, and really look at it. And then as Epi said, it's the song too. You know, I walked into a Village pub one night many years ago, and 9 Days was playing, and I had never heard them before, and they didn't have a deal yet, I don't think. And I was blown away by their songs. They weren't sliding across the floor on their knees. They weren't ripping the ducts out of the ceiling. Their songs are great, and they sounded great. And they did have some level of success after that. And but the song is really important, and so is the act, and so is your ambition, and so is how hard you work. You have to be better than everybody else and work harder than everybody else, and that's what all these people have done. So, any other questions?
Not a question, actually. I want to thank you for what you said. My name is Joanne J. Bird Phillips. My band's playing 41 years on Long Island. Up until present day. Had a break. I'm going to speak to you quickly. You said it right at the get-go. Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm more comfortable with the bass in front of me than telling people. I'm a Harkey-endorsed rock bass player. I'm also a journalist with the U.S. Press Association. So over many decades, I've had a chance to be a weekend warrior, basically. No one here was looking to make a record. I came on the band in '92. The band's playing since '77. But as a journalist, I also interview up-and-coming indie acts. Have covered the Independent Music Festival and the awards in Manhattan. So I'm getting to see a little bit of both sides. You hit the nail on the head right away. In that Long Island, I'm 65. I started playing out at 16, playing drums. Miss Katie Perlman. However, you have to go where your audience is. And this is what you have to do if you want to sustain. First, of course, you must have your passion and love your music. And money really is a little bit secondary depending on your needs and your circumstances. In 2005, I decided to make a conscious decision to take our band out of the bar scene which was doing 7, 8 gigs a week, doubles on Sundays, the OBI, Mulcahy's, and what have you. And I was looking at this from a business aspect and targeting a market demographic and seeing an older audience, a baby boomer that I am. And I put together a show called Songs You Can Sing To, because that's what people wanted to do. And that's where our audience was. We were not playing to 19-year-olds in bars anymore. I contacted 55 libraries over in Nassau and Suffolk County, and they ate this up with a spoon. And so my point is that this is evolving over time. I expected to see a tribute band rise at this time, basically because of the large quantity of baby boomers on Long Island. It makes perfect sense to me. This is a trend now, and I'm sure we'll change at another time. But again, my long-winded thing here is to look where your audience is, do not give up. Promotion is very important, and you have to do some marketing and see where you need to be going and try to project for the future. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tony. Any other questions?
How's it going? So you guys touched on something that I think is really important. We were talking a little bit about the relationship between the venues. I'm talking about original acts too. The relationship between the venues and the bands and the internet. And we were talking about before how you provide bands with all the social media links that you'll need and all that kind of thing. I still kind of feel like there is something more that can be done on Long Island, specifically a better relationship between the media, between the venues, and between the artists that you guys are excited about. And I wanted to know if you guys had any specific ideas about how those two worlds can come together because I think that, I think that you're 100% right in saying that Long Island is an adult market and the tribute bands are doing really well, and that's 100% dead on. But that doesn't mean there's no audience for original acts. The three of us know that for sure. They certainly do come out. And I think we can do a better job of reaching them, and I think that would require cooperation from everyone who's excited about original music to get there. So I was wondering, we have Glenn, we have Dan, and everybody else who's involved with these venues. What sort of ideas does anyone have about how we can come together a little bit better?
And that's what we're going to talk about a lot in the next panel. But yeah, no, it's a great point. What can we do to make this better? And before this panel leaves, anybody have any ideas that just immediately come to front of them?
I can personally guarantee that if any guys that have original things, we do and I don't want to, we're at a different venue right now, so I don't want to promote other venues, but we do shows where we always have original acts open up for us also, if that's the case. So submit some stuff. If you want to play in front of a good audience, give me a call. Shoot us a message, send us a demo or anything like that, because we're always willing to do that too and extend that too. We've had many, many original acts open for us, so it's something we want to support also. So
I think there could be a more centrally, located on the internet. We're talking about place for people to go to find local music. I know there's a lot of different sites. Classic rock this and, alternate and this and that and the other. But I think some of the big companies on Long Island, like maybe News 12 and Newsday, and some of these big companies could get together and put the funds together to get, like a centralized location where people can go and just find anything that they're looking for in the area, instead of having to wait for an email to come in from this band or that band. Or, I know they're out there, but there's not one place to go. The difference between back in the 80s, Newsday was it, or the Good Times. You bought the Good Times, everybody's schedule was in the Good Time. That was the central location. There's nothing like that now, and I don't think we've taken advantage enough of the internet, and it could be done, but it's got to be done with everybody, and there needs to be some big players doing it.
And that's why we're here, by the way. By the way, should Good Times Magazine be inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame? Good. Thank you.
Jim, can I just one comment?
Yeah.
Not really a question. I think people have to realize there's more people listening to music now than ever before. It's a fact. And there's more people listening to new music, original music, than ever before. It's a fact. You look at Spotify, and that's what people are looking at. Every kid in America is on it, on their phone all day long, checking out new music discovered, new release week, everything else, new bands. So it is out there. And there's also sites that have what you want. My site, Reverb Nation has that, so. That's it. It's available. Years ago, you got 30 new songs a year shoved down your throat by radio. Now you've got millions of them shoved down your throat by the internet. So it's out there.
First of all, where's Epi? Epi, I'm older. Oh yeah. Glad to have made it this far. I want to go back to something Randy said about labels looking at younger bands as opposed to older bands.
Can you talk into the mic?
Sorry. I worked for a label back in the 60s and 70s, and they had an entire department devoted to artist development. I don't know that there are resources for young bands starting out like that, because the labels aren't doing that kind of work now. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a central place for people to find new music, but what about guidance resources for bands? You know, there are a lot of unscrupulous people out there still, imagine that, in the music business, who would take advantage of young bands, but what about people who can guide them?
I think that's something that could be also added to this centralized website I'm talking about. You know, it could be something for the fans and for the bands. And it needs, you know, Spotify and all these, you know, worldwide companies are great, but for Long Island, we're talking about Long Island right here. We're kind of isolated from the rest of the country. You know, we're an island, and we need something for us. You know, we're talking about going out to see these bands live to get them in front of people. And I think, you know, having a start where people know where they can go is a good format for also having a place where bands can go and find out, you know, this guy's going to screw you and this guy's going to do you right, you know, or have a forum on there and a guide. You know, I mean, look, Mike and I, as similar as we are, Michael Del Giudice and I, you know, we've gone different paths, but we all have different experiences, and we can relay those experiences to people, and people can use them or not. You know, it may not be their exact path, or may not be useful for them, but yeah, instead of like having to search all this stuff out, I think there should be one centrally located, and I think what you're saying is great for the bands, you know, a learning platform for them, you know?
Just one more quick, thanks, Randy. Just one more quick comment about what the gentleman said before about people listening to music. One of my sons is a drummer and drum teacher. Phil says hi, by the way, Mike. I had a conversation with him today because he knew I was coming to this event. And he's got 15-year-old students. And he asked them, what do you listen to? Kids say, I don't really listen to music. What are you doing in a drum studio? Well, you know, my parents. So there are people who are exposed to music but really don't listen. And that's a whole, according to my son anyway, it's like a whole generation of people that have this gap.
Thank you.
Lisa?
This girl sitting next to me every morning gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and promotes the whole Long Island music scene for everybody. Very sweet Facebook as a 45 member, and she does it out of the goodness of her heart every day.
Thank you, Sherry.
Jeff is the manager, by the way. Jeff is the one who gave us this room tonight. Let's have a big hand for Jeff. He really doesn't need this. This is not part of his work.
Godfrey, my friend, how are you, sir?
This is not his work description.
You guys are great. I really appreciate you coming out and doing this for everybody. I grew up in the 60s. I'm 63 years old. I started performing when I was 15. It was a whole different scene. Like when you went to a bar, like what did people have in their homes? They had a little 45 player. It was about this big, right? We remember those. Some of you guys don't, but It was real small, and they didn't have great sound. But when they went to see a band, that live sound, they went nuts. They went there just to see the band. The whole scene has completely changed now because you walk into a bar, you got 47 TVs with boxing, wrestling, football, baseball. There's a million different attractions going on. They stuff the band in the corner. It's just another sideshow. And the bands, we can't make as much money as we did back in the day. I mean, I left home when I was 19. I went on, I don't want to say I went on tour where I was playing at Madison Square Garden, but I played in big resorts. I backed up singers that were doing everything from Barbra Streisand to Chaka Khan. All right? And when people came to see the shows, they were going out of their minds. Because they didn't have this at home. And they didn't have all the distractions. All the TVs, the phones, text messaging, sending emails. They're not paying attention to the band. And I don't care how good you guys are that are doing the tribute bands, you're still playing the Eagles. You're still playing the Beatles, and that's all they remember. They don't know your name. You're not really making a legacy for yourself. And I think that it's discouraged a lot of people that are truly artists from stepping up to the plate and putting out their message. You know, like it's become like if you're not good enough to be on American Idol, you should stay home. Well, if that was the case, then Bob Dylan never would have made it. Thank you. You know, so I just want to like encourage you writers that are out there. I mean, it takes guts. It takes guts to get up on a stage and to put your heart on your sleeve and sing your songs. And if you give that up, then you just sold your soul. Okay, thank you.
What's that? I was actually just making more of a statement. Can I use a mic? Yeah, you use a mic. How you doing, hon? Put your shoes on. I was just making more of a statement. I can only speak from a original band perspective. I have a band called Memphis Crawl from Port Jefferson. Cheers. And I played music from, you know, I lived out in California, Los Angeles, and San Diego. I played on that scene out there in the early 2000s, and I moved home. I missed my mother from Brooklyn. So I've noticed, you know, tonight is a discussion about the state of cover bands and tribute bands and original bands on Long Island. So I might be getting off topic in the geographical sense, but I noticed that a lot of original bands aren't leaving their comfort zone, their town. You know, Patchogue's awesome, Port Jeff's awesome, Long Beach awesome. They have great meatballs, this and that, good restaurants. But I mean, as far as art goes and music, if you make an original music and you want to stay in your town, I think that's beautiful. But if you are going at it with the sense that you want it to get bigger and you want to give your music to the world and share what you create and nurture it, I think you have to leave your town. I think that's what nobody ever brings up in original music. I think you have to, this is a really crazy one for Long Island because I know it's all about the cash flow, but you have to spend, nobody tells original people this, you have to spend money if you want to have a chance to make money. I'm probably the only person that Dan Welsh has ever met that played his club and gave him the money back in his pocket after the night of getting paid. Because that's not what I'm, right? Remember that, Dan? Am I the only one you ever met?
Pretty much,
yeah. If I was in the money, I'd be an accountant. I'm in the rock and roll, and I'm an outlaw. So, you know, I think people have to get out there. This is Canada's Keith, my bass player in the front row. Stand up. He looks like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. We've been all around the country. We've been from here to California. We were in New Jersey last week. We were in Philly the week before. We were in West Virginia. We'd leave, we'd pack the van, and we'd go. And, you know, Long Island's beautiful, but it almost sometimes becomes its own reality. You tell somebody in the band, they don't say, oh, how much money you make? How much money you make? If it's only about the money, then, as these guys up here said, I think you're in the wrong profession. Because if you're good at what you do and you nurture it, and another thing that people don't touch on is nobody talks about unique talent. everybody that plays music for 20 years, 30 years, or 15 years, everybody's talented, but you have to have something different as far as an original act that piques people's attention. And you also, besides being a good musician, have to be an entertainer. I think somebody said years ago, musicians make music, entertainers make money. So if you do want to make money with your original music, you have to entertain the shit out of people. By us, am I too long-winded here? No? Infinity. By us leaving Long Island and touring around, I met, Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes. So it's helped us here when Chris Robinson came with his solo band in the Space. I know them. We opened for them, I think, 2 or 3 times. We've played here with Robert Randolph. We played the Paramount. We played the Gramercy Theater, Irving Plaza. I mean, we've played the Jim's Festival almost every year. And I think you need to, part of my French, you got to get the balls up and tour. Take the chance, go out and tour. People are friendly in the rest of the country, man. And if they like you, you entertain the shit out of them. You come back here and you carry the, the morale. And you get out there and you also form a brotherhood with the people that you're traveling with that are in your band. I think that's very, very, very useful and overlooked. And when I play the Paramount here, I go out, at the end of the night, Jeff will tell you, I thank the lady that's vacuuming the floor before I leave. You know what I mean? So you have to build up a rapport with the places that you're playing and entertaining the people and show them respect. You're in their house. So good luck, man. Kill it. Cheers.
I think we're going to have to end the questions at this point. Maybe one more question because we have another panel coming in. And,
yeah. Quick comment, quick question. What Dan said about how you have to get on commercials, have to get on the movies, have to get in TV. When you're an older band, especially an original band, you said people want to hear what they know. That is the only way that people from an older generation are going to be able to get people are going to know what they're hearing. If on Long Island, if there was more of a push to have local original bands in things like commercials, locally produced shows, that sort of stuff, it certainly couldn't hurt. But my quick question is this. My agents in England and in Europe are very insistent that we never play any place that doesn't have a cover. And the reason is they say, if you're going to play at Joe's Bar or this venue, and people get in for free, and then we're going to play the Space or my father's place a month later, people are going to say, why should I pay to see them there? I could see them for free over at Joe's Bar. I wonder how you guys feel about that, or maybe that's a question for the next panel.
No, I can answer real quick as a buyer, as a promoter. That's why there's such thing as a radius clause. Your job as an original band especially is to bring in all your followers. We have 500 submissions that could play the festival. There's only 65 bands. I'm going to get the best bands that are also going to work with me to bring their following in. And a professional knows that. A professional doesn't play right down the block the next night, or the day before. You do everything you can to bring all of your fans in and have a great night. And then go to it, and as Maddie said, leave. Go to Jersey, go to Brooklyn, go to Manhattan, and do it again. Some of the most successful bands are bands that do that. Like Miles to Dayton. I'm sorry?
You told that metal band to play the bar for free.
No, what I said was when you work out an original band, if you're working the bugs out of your show, go find a little bar and work the bugs out of your show, and then go play in front of the industry. And while you're in that little bar, and look, I'm talking from an old school standpoint, what I would do, I look for bands that tear the stage out. I look for bands that are exciting and have great music and great songs and work hard to build a following, but also to work on their songs and their show, because you do have to entertain people. And so that's what I said before, and it's really important. But your fans are not going to come and see you every night, and it's not fair to Dan, and it's not fair to Jeff, and it's not fair to Epi when he starts, and he's going to have a fully original club. There's not going to be any tribute bands in that club. So he deserves, you're a partner when you go in there. You're a partner. And when you go into that club, you have to make sure that you're going to bring everybody with you. Because Otherwise, he's going to lose money and he won't be around next year. And that's really important. And professionals know that. Professionals, there are bands. I had Taking Back Sunday play. They sold my festival out that night. They called me a week before the festival and said, do you mind if we climb up on a stage in Long Beach and play with a bunch of friends? That's a bunch of nice guys. And I said, no, of course not. And they were like, okay, cool, thank you. And then there's other people that play right down the block and then nobody comes to my festival. And I can't afford to pay my bills. It is a business, and your band is a business, and your life is a business, and your original project is a business. And if you don't look at it like that and think, well, that's not cool, I'm not an artist, then you're not going anywhere. You know, you're not going to make it because you have a responsibility to the person you're partnering with. You know, and that's a professional way to do it. And you should work with that person, by the way, that promoter, that bar owner, to market together to get people in there. And that's what, when I book bands, the agency calls me. I have a call scheduled on Tuesday for an agent that booked 3 of the bands on my Thursday night, and we're going to work on a campaign together. And he's calling me to do this. They're representative, and that's a professional way to do it. That's what you do, you know. And bands, guys like Ian and Randy and Joan, and I was going to call you Joan and Katie. And Katie, and you know, pros know this, and that's what they do. They don't want to hurt the guy they're playing for. They want to be able to come back.
Well, I appreciate the answer, and it was a great answer. It just wasn't the answer to the question that I asked.
Yeah, you know what, I think you're correct about not playing in a place for free and then going to another place and you're charging $20 to get in because it confuses your fans. But I think that's up to each individual artist as to what they want to do, because those situations do come up. It just depends on your situation. I don't think there's a cut and dry answer to that. I actually had a discussion with a drummer in Zebra, Guy Gelso. He has a band in Louisiana, and he was asking me, some of these places don't want to charge, and some of the places charge. And I told him my suggestion was charge everywhere you go, because you're known, and you don't want to go out there and have people coming to see you play for free, because just like you said, they're going to think, well, why should I go pay when I can go do this for free? When I can get them for free next week. So in general, I think you're correct, but everybody's got their own right to play wherever they want to go, within reason. You don't want to play down the block from Epi's place, or any club. Zebra never did that. I mean, we consciously made sure that we never even discussed an offer with somebody if we were playing anywhere in the area, because it was just not good business for us. It wasn't good for us. It made us look like idiots, And we might have made more money that week, but we're not going to make more money in the future, and we're making enemies along the way. Right. And a lot of people aren't going to tell you that they didn't like what you did. They're just going to not hire you again. You just have to have a little empathy, for the people around you, whether they're the promoters, the club owners, or other bands. And you're going to get a lot further in this business.
And just to answer, and I'm sorry, I kind of went off. Sometimes that free gig is a better gig than the paid gig. Sometimes that free gig playing in a park in front of 5,000 people or 1,000 people is a better gig. You take that one, but you don't screw the other guy. In the meantime, it is a good. Fees are. That's why I brought it up before. The fee thing is.
I wasn't finding it by time or geography. I wasn't saying play this week and the next week. Even if you're playing a month from now and it's a different location. But yeah, we played in France at a big open plaza when they had France against Germany for the World Cup, and the pay was crap. And there wasn't a cover, of course. It was outdoors. But God, there's a million people there. Thank God France won.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to have to end this panel. We're already running late. And the next panel starts in 1 minute.